So, what in the world do we have on the workbench tonight? Diamond cloth in there. Ooh, one of the fabled Polytones. This is the Mini-S12L. These are jazz amps. So I got this Mini-S12L. Got this off Facebook Marketplace for a good price, but it's not working. The guy I bought it from, he bought it from an estate sale, and he said the speaker in it was blown, and then he took the speaker out, but he threw it away, so it has no speaker right now. Here's the back panel. Controls. I think it's late 70s or early 80s. Seems like good build quality. It's got a reverse on the power switch. So I guess it's a polarity switch. Off, on, and reverse. It's got two different channels. One of them's got a distortion. These are the little mini knobs and big knobs. So you got a volume and then distortion. And you got modulation. This is like a tremolo. You got some reverb and octave. Then another channel, and each one's got a bright, middle, and dark setting to it, and high-low inputs. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. And on the back here, you've got 75 watts output, 4 ohms. It's a lot for a little 12-inch speaker. Polytone. And down here, I guess there must have been a foot switch at some point. This did not come with the foot switch. Modulation, octave, edge, channel switch, distortion, reverb, speed pedal. And over here, we've got extension speaker, bass, and treble bi-amp. I don't know what the bi-amp is exactly. This thing's got stereo and mono though on it. Mono, stereo. Then it's got a fuse back in there, and it says there 2 amp fuse, and we checked it and it had a 3 amp in there, so now I put a 2 amp fuse in there. An interesting note on build quality is these are for wrapping your cord up. These are metal. They're like a cast aluminum or something. Anything modern day, they'd be plastic, but they're pretty solid metal. This thing was built well, and it's got casters on the bottom, I think were factory. You got screws on the bottom holding in, I think it's a lower amp, and there's an upper amp. Now this has got rubber feet and casters, but I've seen some of these online, and they all have these casters too, so I think they're factory, or at least a factory option maybe. But that's funny, they did actually put these on too. Maybe these pull right out. I don't know, let me see. Oh, yep, okay, they do pull right out. So you pull right out, and then just so you bring it into the gig with your casters on, and then you set it on the ground with the rubber feet. That's cool. It's different. Let's pull this front cover off. It's just like a foam, and it has no structural support. It's just foam, but it's in good shape. Set that over there. And then I've seen on the other Polytones, they've got this mesh too, but he took the speaker out, and that mesh was glued to the old speaker. I've seen other ones where it was actually glued to the wood, but this is a front mounting speaker. They've got this wood here like recessed, and that speaker goes in there. So I don't know if we're going to reuse this or not, but it was probably a protective you can protect the speaker from the mesh or the foam, and really there was nothing else between the foam and somebody putting a hand or whatever through it, and then this being glued to the speaker protected it. It's kind of a screen door mesh type material, good quality. And I've got an old Eminence speaker I'm going to put in here, but to reuse this I have to glue it to that Eminence. I guess we might do that, because if I just put it in loose, it's just going to flop around and not do nothing. It'll have to be glued to the speaker, so we'll probably do that. We'll see about that. And then this has got Velcro, big heavy Velcro all over, and that just connects to that foam. A couple tweeters on either side. The whole thing is lined with pink fiberglass. That's that lower amp, the power amp. If that's a date code, it might be that 362, 82 to 34. Could be 34th week of 82. I don't know. Mepco Electra. I've never heard of them. Interesting. And then we got 26th week of 82. If that's the date code on that transistor. That, I bet this is an 82. And I would have dated the speaker, or tried to, but the speaker is gone. I don't know what speaker was in here. He just said that he threw it away because it was blown. So, wish he'd have left it. Probably could have reconed it and put the original speaker in here, but whatever. Too late now. It's long gone. Alright, what do we got going on inside here? A couple of connectors. I go up to the upper amp. More connectors over there. We have a PCB board in there, and I'm not sure what that goes to. I know this has reverb, but I don't know if it has a spring reverb or what. That umbilical cord looks like an RCA jack. Let's see if it comes off. We might mess with it, but I'm not sure if that's an RCA jack. They want to take the back panel off too. I'll get better access to it. A heat sink and a poly transistor over there. And on this side, up to that tweeter, we've got a Rockwood resistor, 3 watts, 50 ohms, 10%. And then speakers hooked up, red and red together, positive and blue together for the negative side. And then it goes down to an extension jack. Down. Let's see. That's where the speaker extension jack is down in there. Can't get a good look at it, but that's where it is, right behind that fuse that is intact. So we got an inside fuse and an outside fuse. From what I've read online, these Polytones, they're solid state amps, and they were real popular for jazz guys in the 70s and 80s, and still today jazz guys like different. There's a couple different kinds of Polytones. Anyway, this one looks pretty cool. It's in real good shape, so we'll probably give it a service, clean all the pots and jacks, make sure everything's working good, put a new speaker in it, and then put her back out on the market for somebody. I got too many amps as it is. I don't need another one. It's a lot of screws in that back panel. Well, here we go. Start taking them out. Overall, it's in really good shape. We're gonna have to do a little bit of cleaning though. Get all that funky little bit of dust out of there and dust from down there. But mostly it's pretty doggone clean. And I don't know, we might clean this. We could put it in the sink. It's got definitely got dust in it. It's in good shape. I don't know. I don't think it would hurt a little soap and water in the sink. Seems like pretty good shape for old foam. But here's that eminence that I'm going to put in there. Interesting to note, this appears to have factory 3-prong cord on it, but it also still has that reverse ground switcher on it, which is, I guess, what Fender carried through the 70s too. On the silver faces, they still had a ground switch on them, and they had those big red 3-prong cords on them that the ends always come off of. But build quality on this thing seems good. This is nice Tolex, in good shape, so it feels good, thick, definitely quality. Last screw is out. Let's see what's behind the back panel. Got fiberglass on the back and good metal shielding. Shine the light over there. Looks like printed circuit board, which we expected, but a nice thick one, unlike the ones these days. There's real thin traces and everything. And I don't know, we'll take a closer look, see if it looks original. I think it does on first glance. We'll see. We got this, and looks like black Sharpie NL LAD, no, lead probably NLEAD 52583. Don't know. Polarity reverse off on switch. It's got a big old cap on it. I guess that's the death cap. And foam. Interesting. So these are the across the line caps in the power supply on the power switch, and during working on this, one of them kind of broke off accidentally, so I ended up deciding to take them both out. Turns out that was a bad idea. The amp got quite a lot of background hiss and hum after that, so then I put them back in and it got nice and quiet. Just a note to anyone in the future, don't take those death caps across the line out in this amp, it gets loud. Interesting pots, those big old legs on them, and the grounding jacks. Yeah, I mostly work on tube stuff, so this is all pretty foreign to me. So hopefully we can just do a little bit of servicing and cleaning and send her on her way. Better look at the back side of this transformer. It says Polytone 008043001-2. Don't know what that means, maybe just part number. And I'm not seeing any other date codes. We'll take a little closer look. So I think this thing has real spring reverb in it. I can feel the tank behind this fiberglass, but I'm not gonna, well, maybe on the front side we'll pull it back and have a look, but I'm pretty sure there's a tank right there. Yep, lurking in there. Real spring reverb tank. Made in USA, Accutronics. Geneva, Illinois. Don't see, unless that's it. Bottom there. No. Oh, there it is in ink. Something 10. I'll try to get a better picture of that. Like to me, maybe a 10B2C1C, or maybe an I or T or T0B2C1C. Hard to maybe spray a little deoxit in these pots, but you can't even hardly get to the cleaner spots. I guess maybe at the bottom there, but man, they don't make it easy to spray a little cleaner in them. The jacks are Switchcraft jacks. It's good. They use the real deal. I think the build quality on this thing's good. Seems like real plywood. Let's see. Never mind. Chipboard on the back panel. Yeah, chipboard on the back panel. The front panel, though, the baffle is plywood, and I think the cabinet construction is plywood behind all this fiberglass. This Eminence speaker seems to be a real good fit in here. If that magnet was any bigger, it'd be run right into that heatsink, and there wouldn't be any room. So you really probably can't put a real big magnet speaker in here, like a big new warehouse or something. It just wouldn't fit and bang right into that heatsink. So I think this will work out just fine. This is an Eminence, what is it, 80, no, wrong way, 86-07808 speaker from Eminence. Well, cleaned out the sockets and jacks and pots and all that with deoxit. Got that speaker installed. A little bit of cleaning. Got to clean this top panel, put this back panel back on, and then we'll be ready for a little sound test and see what it sounds like. If that speaker sounds alright, I'll probably glue that guy onto the speaker and put this back on there, and then that might be it. We'll see. This amp's pretty clean, but it still seems to have some of those ubiquitous white spots that an old amp will get here and there. And then the cover has got the granddaddy great white spots on the cover. So good old vintage amps, they always got some paint on them somewhere. Well, this Tolex cleaned up real nice, and the control panel also cleaned up real nice. Pretty much just with a wet paper towel, and I sprayed a little deoxit in some of these switches and a little more on that reverb knob. Okay, this is a quick explanation of the controls. You got the off, on, power, and on reverse, which basically reverses either the line or maybe the polarity, but whichever one is quieter is what you're, I guess, supposed to be on. The up or the down is fine. It's basically an on switch. Off is in the middle. Then you got your channel 1, and it's your distortion channel. It says distortion right there, and that red knob is the distortion. You can turn it all the way left and it clicks off, and then there's an inner knob, and use that inner knob, and it's not really any distortion. It's all pretty clean, but you turn that knob, the inner one or the outer one, all the way down, and you turn that inner distortion knob up, and then it gets nice and fuzzy. This is basically the fuzz amp, and then these are just bass and treble standard controls. Then you got a bright or dark switch. I like it in the middle, but if you wanted to go more jazzy, you might go darker. And if you want bright, you go brighter. It's too bright in my opinion. So in the middle is kind of where I like it. And I like to turn that fatter volume switch all the way down, and then turn that fuzz. They call this channel 1 the fuzz channel. Then I turn that one up a little bit and get a little bit of fuzzy tones. Quite good little drive or fuzz on it. And then you got high and low level inputs. The high is a little bit louder, the low is a little bit quieter, kind of standard. Then you've got modulation and speed and intensity, which is basically a tremolo control, and I kind of like that set right in the middle, and that seems to work on both channels, but is much stronger in channel 1. Same with the reverb and octave. The octave doesn't seem to do a whole lot. The reverb, I like it, and it'll go past halfway, and it seems to be stronger in channel 1, but it does work on both channels. Channel 2 seems to just be kind of clean, maybe like their standard Mini Brute, just a very clean, simple amp. And it's also got a bright and dark and high-low inputs. But overall, you can set this thing a lot of different ways. It's really versatile, pretty cool. Overdrive and dirty over here, or over here just super clean. This takes pedals really well. Both sides take pedals well. And then right in the middle, you got a mono and stereo. And I've been just leaving it in stereo. You can't hardly tell the difference, but I think what's really far is there's speaker hookups on the back. There's jacks, and then you can have an extension speaker, and that's probably when you really get your mono and stereo sound difference going, to be my guess. So anyway, that's how the controls on this Polytone work. So this thing sounds good, except for it can't seem to handle I turn it up too much, or heavier notes are playing. It gets this fuzzy bzz, bzz, and I guess it's filter cap that can't handle it. So I'll play this for a minute, see if I can get to do it. Probably heard that. Let's play some single note stuff now. Single line note stuff. That's just not asking the old capacitors for too much juice, I think. It's got some background hum. I've been playing it off and on for 2 days, and it had more hum at first, and it seems to have been having actually less hum, and then now it's developed this thing. If I try to play heavier, it's really the first day I've tried to turn it up, so I'm thinking it's capacitors. I don't know too much about solid state. It's the first solid state amp I've actually really worked on. Mostly I work on tube amps. Cool amp though. caps in this Polytone. Our little tester here, and the first cap is an electrolytic, and it tested as a resistor. Hit it again, see what it does. 120 ohm resistor, and it should be a 35 volt 470 microfarad cap. Well, that can't be good. Okay, we're hooked up to the second big electrolytic in here. Test. It says it's a resistor too. That just doesn't seem right. I wonder if I got to get them out of circuit to properly test them. This thing's supposed to test stuff in circuit. We're trying to reverse the leads, see if that makes a difference. The leads, and that made a difference. ESR 0, VLOS 0.5, 516 microfarad, and it's supposed to be 470, so that's probably not too bad. Alright, check the second one. And it's about the same, ESR of 0, VLOS of 0.5, and 514 microfarad. So they're both a little high on microfarad. They're supposed to be 470, they're 514. It's not huge, probably okay. Test these little non-polarized guys that are all over the place. That maybe they're coupling caps, I'm not sure. And that first one says ESR 4.3, that seems kind of high. And 1094 nanofarad. Took the speaker back out of the Polytone because I need to take that power amp out. And it looks like the 4 screws from the bottom just go right into that chassis. I don't even see any nuts on them, so we'll undo them. Let's see if we can't get a look at the bottom side of that chassis and check the electrolytics underneath there. Yep, just those 4 screws from the bottom. They just went right into the chassis. Might be not too fun lining those back up, with those doggone fiberglass in the way. So this is what the power amp looks like underneath. 1, 2, 3, 4 more electrolytics to test and see if they're doing any good. And then you got the big power electrolytics, I guess, under this board. I was wanting to test them, thinking I'd have good access underneath here, but it doesn't appear so. Doing a little voltage testing in here. This lug here, I think these lugs go right to those big caps. That one had 10 volts on it. This one is ground. This one is ground. And that one's not grounded. Adjust this, yeah, there. Ground, not grounded. And this one had no voltage on it, so maybe this cap's bad. It wasn't holding any volts at all. And this one was holding 10 volts on this bottom left. And then this one here actually goes to ground on the chassis. I think those are the big electrolytics. Well, we took our little ESR meter and we tested these electrolytics, and here's what we got. Let's see. This big one here tested bad. It kept coming up with weird stuff and way high microfarads or weird ESR. This one tested relatively good. It was like 9,200 microfarads, which should be 7,300, so that's pretty high. So it might be at least good, but probably failing. This failed, said it was a resistor. This one tested pretty good, 12.6. It's supposed to be a 10. And then this 50 here also tested bad, had 84 microfarad instead of 47. And yeah, should be 47. That one tested 84. So I guess we need a few new caps. These big capacitors out doesn't seem too bad. Undo the screw on that, and you undo the 2 screws on here. The left is positive, right is negative. Pull that guy out. Huh. Actually, the right is positive on this, which seems odd, being that's the side that was grounded. Could it be in wrong from the factory, or do we just not know? I don't know. It seems odd. Test this thing out of circuit. It takes a long time for the tester. It's got to like try and charge the capacitor. Testing, testing, testing. ESR 0, 8300 microfarad. And then it likes to flash right off real fast for some reason. I guess because it took so long to test it. The other one was doing the same kind of thing. Well, look at the schematic. I'm going to guess that was right, because one side gets a plus 31 volts. The other one gets a negative 31 volts. So the plus side of one of these goes back to the center tap, I guess. And the other one goes right to the diode. Okay, we got the second one out. And it was oriented the opposite way with the plus on the left. And so we went ahead and updated our drawing. That number 21 on the bottom was plus on the left, so they do alternate. And then down inside there, where they just butted up, these just butt right up against there and screw in from the other side. And I think that whole board's loose now, and we'll see if we can't pull it out a little bit so we can get to those capacitors. The second one, the number 2, cap number 2. See what it says. In circuit it seemed fine. Probably should find out of circuit. So I'm a little torn. These both seem to test good out of circuit, but we know we're getting that bad buzz when we try to get too much power, and we definitely got some hum in the amp, but we also know we got some other bad capacitors that just test bad. Do we replace them first and then leave these? Maybe. They seem to be okay. Hard to say for certain. Hard to say. It's like we can get that board flipped up. It'll still be a little tough to work on. Polytone 2, no, maybe 3 something, maybe 379B, maybe, hard to say. Seem like good thick traces though. Should be able to pop out those two bad 50-volt caps. Got too much trouble, I think. Well, studying up on this power amp schematic a little bit, it definitely seems to be the right one. So we've got the two 7300s, and then we've got a 10 up 1.0, which is that little coupling cap, and then two 50s. And the two 50s are bad, so I'm wondering when we get that buzz if it's not these two 50s, because these actually, besides the microfarads being a little bit high, seem like they test good, and they're expensive. I mean, they're like, some are $50 a cap. I'm not spending $50 a cap, I don't think. You can get cheaper ones that don't have screw terminals, but then we have to figure out some way to re-support that board and do a lot of weird stuff, so I don't want to do that. So I'm leaning towards putting these back in, ordering these 50s that are bad, and I think that 10 was bad too. I don't remember. I'll have to double check. Let's see. The 50 was bad, the 10 was okay, and that 50 was bad. And that tested weird in circuit, but out of circuit that thing tests just fine. So it might have just been testing funny in circuit. And then up on top, we got to order some 1 microfarads. That one tests as a resistor. That's another 1 microfarad. So a couple 1 microfarads, and we got a 10 microfarad that's bad on top. Everything else seemed to test okay up top. So back to again, I think where our buzz is coming from is maybe these two. We get them changed out, we might be in business. We're gonna try that. Those are probably like $1 a piece versus $40 or $50 a piece for these big suckers. For all our testing, we're down to ordering 1 10 microfarad at 35 volts and 2 47 microfarad at 50 volts, and we'll put them in and then we'll see what we got. There's a couple of these non-polarized ones that test as a resistor one way, but not the other way. They tested fine, and those are just coupling caps. If we really think we have problems, we could just pop them on. Unfortunate that for one bad cap, we're going to pull this whole board. So I went ahead and marked these 1, 2, 3, and 4, just so if we pull them all out, we don't get confused. See that? Or I try and just cut those leads and then solder onto it without pulling the whole board out. That would be doable, I think. We may try that, being it's only 1 capacitor, and then we don't have to take out every one of these knobs and introduce a lot of potential problems. We can at least clip that guy out, see if we can't solder it from this side of the board, and if we can't, then we'll go through all the trouble pulling it. New caps are in, 47 at 50 and 10 microfarad at 50. They're pretty tiny. Well, we needed axial caps. Thought we ordered axial caps, and radials came in. Well, let's see what we can do. There we got it. I got them in, soldered in. They should work. Let's put the big caps in. Let's see what we got. I don't think I'm going to pull this cap. I'm going to redo it, but I'm not going to pull the whole board to redo one cap, because it's only going in on one side anyway, and then it was like tarred down with this tar, and then the negative end just went to this gray cable. So we're going to try and make it work without pulling the board, since that's the only cap that tested bad on this whole board. And we're going to replace the 2 that tested bad down in there, and hopefully these work. They tested good out of circuit, a little bit high on the microfarads, but other than that, they tested good. They look good. They don't have any leakage, so we put them back in, and they're $50 a piece. So put them back in for now and see what happens. Well, that was tricky, but we did it without pulling the board, and with a little bit of silicone on there. Should be secure once it dries. There was only 1 connection going under the board before anyway, so it's not much different than it was. Well, I wasn't recording. I should have been. That was kind of a bust. It sounded real badass and had most of the hum gone, maybe not quite all. For about a minute we played it, and then maybe 3 minutes. It was sounding good, and we had it cranked up, and then all of a sudden something started like crazy, and we had to shut her down. Something was failing badly, very badly. One of them caps basically opened up, it sounded like. So I guess we got to change all the electrolytics now, at least all the big ones, I think. I don't know, we're going to have to open back up and see if we can see what fried, or retest caps and see if we can test them and see what one blew up this time. That sucks. It sounded way better with the 3 caps that I replaced. I mean, way better than it did before. It was like coming alive. Frustrating. This is how it came out on the back side. Fuse facing the back, these to the right, and 3 connections. Reverb connection, big braid, which went all the way to the left, and this guy here, which just went to right there, and everything's marked. Easy peasy. Okay, doing some continuity testing on these big capacitors. Continuity testers on. Capacitors are good. Testing to ground. Nothing. Nothing. That one's grounded as expected. We got the ground logo on there. Actually, that's loose. Interesting. That could be part of our problem. And that guy there, not grounded. I don't know how that came loose, but we might have been losing our ground there, and that could have been causing the problem, I suppose. Yeah, not impossible. But every time I touch it, no matter what I do, though, the ground stays. So I think we were grounded. But check for shorts across the capacitors, and that capacitor shorts across itself, and this one does not. I don't think the capacitor is supposed to short across itself. Can't be good. $11.5 nanofarad, that ain't right. Let's test this one. Our tester doesn't want to test. Can't believe we'd be out of batteries. There's a new battery not that long ago. That one tests good. Basically 8,000 microfarad. Let's test this one. $7,954 microfarad. Also tests basically good. What in the world is going on with this amp? Okay, out of circuit. Testing this capacitor across itself for continuity. And okay, just a second ago, the continuity tester was going off. Alright, got this capacitor here, doing a continuity test. Of course, continuity on that side, and continuity across that side. I don't think that is supposed to be how it is, so I think this capacitor is bad, and that's the problem. And then it's funny, as I adjust it a little bit, it kind of goes away. But you should not have any continuity. That's weird. And then it goes away. We should never have continuity though across the capacitor. Why would it go away? That is weird. Turn it off. Turn it back on. Continuity. Alright, continuity on that side. Now no continuity on that side. That is freaking weird. I think this capacitor is bad though. The other one does not test ever have continuity across it. Why would this one test sometimes continuity and sometimes not? Okay, now we're back to both of them having continuity again. Oh, and it just quit. These caps sometimes are shorted across themselves to ground and sometimes aren't. And maybe that's what our big problem is. That is so weird. So it's shorted now and then it quits. Open lead. Weird. Totally friggin' weird, man. I guess these caps are bad. No, nothing. Jeez. I can drop this chassis out now. The only thing I can see is a bolt there and a bolt there. And hopefully that pops out, and then you can tell there's a plate on the back of it. And it'd be really nice if I could get to the backside all the electronics and be able to change out those caps easily. We'll see. Update on this. We got terminal strips installed. We got the two big caps installed, zip tied. We took our Dremel and put a little slot in the heatsink and zip tied and siliconed the big capacitors there. Then we'll run some wires from them down to the terminals, and the power supply should be good. Well, that works out pretty nice. That whole chassis comes out once you pull these two bolts. Then you can get to backside. We'll undo those screws and we should be able to get to the backside of the circuit board. I don't understand why more people don't do that, make it access to the backside of the circuit board for repairs. But it seems like most of them, you gotta pull the board. This is way better. Old school and way better. Okay, let's see what we got under the backside. We got access. They actually got a couple parts on the backside too. Capacitors, resistors, and whatever that guy is. I wonder if they're hiding this stuff on purpose to confuse people, or they just ran out of room on the front side. Interesting. And that might be a varistor, maybe for that tremolo or something. Hard to say. Interesting. Not too shabby. Had to put some big heat shrink on there to try and cover up this some of the connection there. Got all our positive and negative soldered in. Put her back together. See if it blows up. Now to test these transistors before I put it back together. And this one, MJ802. Might be an M, Motorola maybe. Probably 26 week of 82 based on other date codes. Speaker grill back on. Back down with the good old Weldwood contact cement. Thanks to a little help from Parts Express and Springboro, Ohio. I was able to find all the non-polarized caps, 1 microfarad, and one of them here is a 5 microfarad. Could only get them at 100 volts. The originals were 50 volts, but I couldn't find non-polarized and 50 volts, so the sizes, they're all a little bit bigger because they're 100 volt capacity, but they did fit. Not quite as good as the originals, but we made it work. So these should be good. Okay, all the electrolytics now have been changed in this power supply. Finally, all electrolytics and the whole thing are done. Time to put it back together and see what we got. Okay, all put back together. All new electrolytics. All new electrolytics down there.